Hi everyone and welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to learn about subquery. Subquery is very easy to understand if you know group by and if you have been writing SQL along this series. But if you're someone who has just come to this first video, so this video is a part of entire series. You can check out the playlist on the YouTube channel, and then it should be easy for you to follow along. But I'll still try to cover the subquery from basics. There's nothing fancy in subquery. What subquery actually does it nests one query inside the other. Just the way in programming language like C or C++ or whatever programming language you use, you can actually nest if conditions, right? One if condition can go inside the other if condition. Similarly, in the SQL ecosystem, you could also put one query inside the other query. And this helps you to break down complex SQL problems into smaller and more manageable part. So let us go to our PG admin and try to run a couple of examples and see how we can use the subquery. But before that, it makes sense to go ahead and also tell you the syntax. The syntax of the subquery is pretty simple. We select column from table where column name, then operator. Where you want to focus is the last line, select column that is inside the parenthesis. So we have two select statement in this query, the first one and the second one. The difference between these two SQL queries is that the second one is inside the parenthesis, which means this is a subquery. And when you run this entire query, SQL will try to run this in the most efficient manner, which means there are good chances that the first one, the query which is written inside the parenthesis, that is going to run first, and the result of this query is going to be used in the first query. So let us go to our PG admin and look at the table that we have been using, that is the film table. So we'll say select star from film and let us run it. Okay, so we have film ID, title, description, release year, and rental rate. So let us think of a situation where we have been asked to find the movies whose rental rate is more than the average rate. Okay, whose rental rate is more than the average rental rate of this table. Now, of course, when we go through this table, we find a rental rate, but we don't have any column that tells that what is the average rental rate. So first, how do we calculate it? We say AVG, that's an operator we have, and then we're going to pass the column name, that is rental rate, and let us run it. And we now see that the average rental rate of all the movies is 2.98 and a lot of zeros. And in a way to round off, we can use another function, that is round, which first takes the parameter as the value, and then the second parameter is the number of decimal places we need. So in this case, I need only 2. So we now have the rental rate, average rental rate, as 2.98. Now we are going to use this result as an input to the other select statement, because now we need the movies that have the rental rate more than the average rental rate. So we are going to write select maybe title and rental rate from film, right, where rental rate is greater than the average rental rate. And so how we're going to use this one, we're going to put the second SQL select statement inside the parenthesis. Let us run it. Okay, so we now see that we have the title of the movies and also the rental rate, and these rental rates are 4.99, 2.99, but it is above the average rental rate, that was 2.98. Now you could of course perform some order by. You could come here and write order by, because order by gets executed towards the end, and you can perform some more conditionals and formatting as you may like. That was one situation. Now one thing to note here, that in this syntax, when we were looking in these slides here, when we say in the subquery, we are saying from another table. But in our query that we have practiced here, we are not using another table, we are using the same table. So what this means, that in the subquery, you could be using the same table twice. You don't have to be working with the other table. Now that we have understood this, let us go ahead and try to run this subquery along with the join statement. So let us go back and look at some of the tables that we have, that is select star from inventory. We have inventory, that is inventory ID, film ID, and store ID. You see we have film ID and inventory ID. We also have rental, Okay, so we have rental ID, rental date, and this has staff ID and some customer ID. And what else do we have? We definitely have film. So let us go ahead and try to find the movies which are available in the given date. Okay, which are available to rent in the given date. So we have a rental table, we have an inventory table, and we also have a film table. So how are we going to do it? First, we are going to select not everything, but we're going to use the rental table. So of course, select star from rental, and from this rented table, maybe we only need, let's say, okay, let's select everything from here and then come down and do inner join on inventory. And then this from inventory table, what do we need? We need the film ID. So we can use inventory dot film ID. Okay, and then inner join on which key column, right? We need to define the key column. So it's going to be on table name inventory dot inventory underscore ID should be equal to rental dot inventory underscore ID. So let us try to run it and see if this works. Yeah, so we're now getting the film ID, and we now need to actually define the date range. So date range is going to be somewhere between where return date is between 2005 May 29th and 2005 May 30th. All right, so let us run it. So it should be return date, not day. Okay, so we now get the film IDs that are available for rent. Okay, and the return dates that we have picked is 29th May and 30th May. It's between 29th May and 30th May. So we now have a film ID. What do we want? We need their film names. What we can do is we can go up and pass the results of this query, that is film ID, into the film table, because film table has the film name. So we are going to write select film ID and title from movie film, where film ID in, and here we're gonna pass this subquery, and let us run it. All right, so we now have film ID and the title. And how does this work? First, it goes and selects the rental table. It inner joins with the inventory, right? And with the key column that we're using to map is the inventory ID, which exists in both the table. And we want the return date between 25th May and 30th May. And the film IDs that we're getting, if you see, we are picking up only the film ID from the inventory table. We are passing those film ID in this query, where we are picking film ID and title from the film table. Now, it may be too much to understand in the beginning, but if you try to maybe make some diagram and visualize on how this query is working, it is in fact a very not so hard query to understand. So I would request you to spend some time on it, do some practice on your own, use notepad and try to type it without looking at this code. And maybe in the beginning you want to maybe just copy it and then practice it, and then eventually you will you will be able to understand this code if it is too much for you to understand in the beginning. That is all in this video, and I'm gonna see you in the next video.